All right, everybody, now we're moving on to October. First up is Luke. I was the first one to submit a formal Westing game solution. I remember the morning I figured it out. I was up early reading what Mr. Terrap had assigned when all of a sudden some of the author's clues came together for me, and bam! I had it. I ran into Mom and Dad's bedroom to celebrate. I've got it, I've solved it. I've danced and jumped around while they burrowed under the covers trying to sleep. Good, great, Luke, Dad said from under the blankets. We're proud of you, honey, Mom said, peeking out at me. Now let us sleep some more, Dad added. He moaned and turned over. I sat down at the kitchen table and wrote up my conclusion. I stuffed it in an envelope, sealed it, and signed my name across the back. Detective Luke. I couldn't wait to get to school that morning. I ran to our classroom and handed Mr. Terrap the envelope. Everyone was shocked. You've solved it already? Mr. Terrap said, standing up from his chair, his eyes bugged out and his eyebrows raised. He still hadn't turned in a solution. Suddenly, he wobbled a bit. He grabbed his desk and closed his eyes for a moment. Stood up too fast, he said, after regaining his balance. Then he moved on like nothing had happened. I'm impressed, especially since I'm not even close to a solution, Mr. Terrap admitted. But we still don't know if you're right. No, I'm right, I said. I only know of one person who's ever cracked this case before the author revealed the truth. So if you're right, you'll join a special company, Mr. Terrap said. I'm right, I said. Observation. Mr. Terrap had 2 dizzy spells. Question. Who's the one person that cracked the case? Is Mr. Terrap okay? Detective Luke. Peter. I read the Westing game but never handed in a solution. It was part of my plan to have Mr. T fail me. But I wanted to read the book because I didn't want to miss out. I liked it a lot. But it's not the story I remember most. It's the drama around the book that stuck with me, like the day Mr. T turned in his solution. Mr. T loved to scare the snot out of us when we were busy doing something. One time we were taking a time test and yelled out, "Time!" after 45 minutes were up. A few of us were so rattled we accidentally threw our pencils. Ben banged his legs on the underside of his desk. He jumped so bad. Mr. T laughed his head off, and we laughed with him, so it shouldn't be a surprise that he made his Westing game announcement during silent reading time. It was so quiet you'd definitely know where a fart came from if someone were to let one go, unless, of course, you were the evil Lexi. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Mr. T shouted, "That's it!" He successfully scared the snot out of us again. You might as well call it quits, he announced. I've got my solution right here, and there's no way I'm going to lose. I've solved it. Too bad Luke's already turned his in, I said. Looks like you'll have to settle for second place. Luke didn't say anything, but Mr. T made a grand production out of adding his envelope to the submission box. He flew it up and down like an airplane, sound effects included, before spinning around and slam dunking it home. We were supposed to go back to silent reading. I tried, but it was hard to settle down after Mr. T got us riled up like that. He made everything loads of fun. Jessica. Fade in. LS of everyone sitting in chairs. They've been arranged in semicircles facing the front of the room, making a staging area. Written on the board are the words Solution Opening Ceremony. Mr. Terrap carries in a shoebox in his hands along with his copy of the Westing game. The box holds our solutions. Jessica voiceover. There was nervous chatter among our classmates as Mr. Terrap approached with the solutions. Except for me and Luke, we were the only ones not talking while we waited for Mr. Terrap to get ready. Luke was all business. We were anxious in it together and hoping to be the winner. Cut 2. Days earlier in the classroom, during silent reading time, Luke kneels next to Jessica in the corner of the room where she's working. They were talking in hushed voices. Luke. How close are you? Jessica. I don't know. I'm trying to be patient, hoping that something comes to me, but it's not. I don't know what I'm missing. Luke. I wasn't patient. I rushed my solution because I'm sure I had it solved, but now I know there's more to it. Luke looks down at the floor. Luke. I want to tell you what I know and see if it helps you. Mr. Terrap said only one person has ever solved it, so I want to see if I can help you figure it out. It's too late for me. Luke looks up at and meets Jessica's smile. Cut to solution opening ceremony. Mr. Terupt. Okay, gang, here's the deal. It's time for us to finish this magnificent riddle. The recommender of this story did not lie. It's a brilliant tale. After we're finished, I'll take each solution out one at a time and read it. The one that's the most accurate and thorough will be considered the best, with any ties going to the earliest submissions. Got it? Students nod, books at the ready. Cut to Mr. Terupt. Cut to Mr. Terupt reading out loud the end of Westing game and the class following along with their copies. Signs of shock and disbelief are seen through the students. We see mouths agape with their heads shaking. Peter smacks his forehead. Peter, excited, springing up in his seat. Holy smokes, if anybody got that, they're wicked smart. Cut to medium shot of Mr. Terupt. He starts pulling envelope after envelope from the box, reading the answers out loud. Then he gets to Luke's and holds up for the class to see. Close-up of the envelope. Detective Luke is scrawled across the seal. Mr. Terupt opens it and reads Luke's solution aloud. Mr. Terupt, after whistling. Very impressive, Luke. Your solution is certainly evident of the detective in the making. Jeffrey, way to go, Lukester. Luke shrugs and he glances at Jessica, who's trying to be sneaky and not look back at him. Jessica voiceover. I liked Mr. Terupt for praising Luke when he knew his own solution was better, but he hadn't opened my envelope yet, and he didn't know that Luke had a hand in that solution too. Cut to CU of the next envelope. We see Mr. Terupt's name. He opens it and reads the solution to the silent audience. Mr. Terupt, flexing his muscles. It seems I was right, Peter. I'm sorry, my solution happens to be the best. Luke, raising a finger to the air. Not so fast. Let's not forget we still have Jessica's. There is wild cheering now, and a chant begins. Jessica, Jessica. Cut to Mr. Terupt smiling. Pull back as he opens the last envelope, Jessica, and reads her solution. Jessica voiceover. I should have been surprised when Luke offered to help. He was the one who let me borrow snow pants last winter on the day of the accident. He did his best to help Mr. Terupt when he fell in the snow, and on that final day in the collaborative classroom, Luke and James helped all of us tell Peter the accident wasn't only his fault. Luke was someone you could count on. He'd be there for you. Mr. Terupt looks up after finishing Jessica's solution. Mr. Terupt. Well, there's no doubt about it. We found our winner. Congratulations, Jessica. Come up here and get your reward. Cut to everyone cheering. Jessica stands up and walks over to Luke. They slap each other 5, and then Jessica walks up to Mr. Terupt. Mr. Terupt to the class. I present to you our winner of the Westing Game competition, Miss Jessica. Her award is a gift card to Snow Hill Bookshop. More cheering from the class. Jessica, still on stage, facing Mr. Terupt. Mr. Terupt, you taught us that we do better when we stick together. And, well, I couldn't have won the competition without Luke's help. He deserves the award as much as I do. Mr. Terupt, all. It takes a special person to admit that, Jessica, and it takes a special person to help out a friend. Luke, please come up here and receive your gift card. I just happen to have one for you. Luke stands and walks up to the front, joining Jessica. Mr. Terupt hands him the gift card, then sweeps his arms in a gesture to present the winners. There's a standing ovation. Luke and Jessica shake hands. Cut to class back in their seats, and Mr. Terupt still standing at the stage area. Luke raises his hand. Yes, Luke? Luke, who is the one person who actually solved the mystery before the book revealed it? Mr. Terupt. Ah, yes. The recommender of this book was also the person who solved it. My mother. Fade out. Jessica voiceover. Luke and I came close with our solution. It might have been the best in the class, but we still didn't have it completely figured out. There was more to Sam Westing than we had realized. We didn't really know him, just like we really didn't know our teacher. Mr. Terupt was our very own Sam Westing, and our desire to find out more about him was stronger now, more than ever.